All right, hello everybody, welcome. Today we're going to take a look at how to download Blender, and I'm going to give you some of my ways of starting it up here. So I'm going to Google Blender and Blender 3D ads, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to go to this one here. Download Blender. Download Blender. And there you go. After this is done downloading, then I'm going to open it. So I'm just going to say open when done. And let's wait. All right, now this is opened up automatically. I'm just going to hit next. Accept the terms. Hit next. Hit next. Install. Hit yes. And wait for it. Completed the Blender setup wizard. Click the finish button to exit the setup wizard. Finish. And yeah, it's that simple. I will minimize, and now I've got a Blender thing here. Double click on it. And just like that, I've got myself Blender. So Blender is now yours. It's free to use. You don't have to worry about it at all. So now, why not? I'm going to go into the edit and then the preferences, and we're going to go over a few things. Some of this is going to be good advice. Some of it is going to be exclusively just my preferences. So this first thing here, I'm going to look at this and say, I'm all right with that. The themes, I'm going to get back to that in a second. Viewport, I'm okay with that. Lights, editing, animation, add-ons. Now I'm going to go through the add-ons here, because here's the thing. You've got a bunch of add-ons in here which actually come with Blender. So these are things where if you check this box, it actually adds a feature that it normally would not have. A lot of add-ons are available free to use on the internet, and some of them you have to pay for. All these things you already have. And there's just a few things in here that I definitely want to turn on. I'm going to go through these slowly and carefully. Hopefully I don't miss the things that I'm looking for. Okay, dynamic context menu. I'm going to check that on. So now when I hit spacebar, it's going to give me this menu right here, as opposed to this regular toolbar that it normally does. Let me move this out of the way. If I hit spacebar, it's giving me this whole thing. Normally, I would just get this. Loop tools, I'm going to check that one on. Loop tools, with that checked on, if I go into here, let's say options, view, hold on, let's actually go into this, click on this box here, and I hit tab, which brings me into edit mode if you don't know. If I bring up this thing here, whoa, not like that, you gotta get this little arrow right there. You can also hit N, the N key. Now you got item, tool, view, and edit. This is I got loop tools right here. So it's giving me these extra features right here. That's what this loop tool is being checked on. Another one down here is Node Wrangler. You're gonna wanna check that on. This is going to be useful for some material node things, which we don't really need to get into too much. But like, if I click on the shading menu here, give it a minute. If I click on object, world, click on this background thing and hit Control T, boom, it's going to do all that because I got Node Wrangler on. But again, we don't need to go into that too much. But that's something I would turn on. Align tools. I'm going to check on that. Tab, go back into object mode. The line tools, you got item, align. And you've got all these things in here. So like if I add another cube and I try moving this over here, click on these two things, I've got all these align options. So that's helpful. Bool tool. I'm going to check on that. Let's move this over here. So with the Bool tool on, edit, Bool tool, you've got all these things here. So like, if I want to do this, click on that, go difference, and there you go. I just cut that out. Very quick and easy way to do booleans without having to pay for anything. Gonna keep moving down my add-on list here. And that's about it for what we have with the default add-ons. I think I'll be good for now. I'm gonna go down to input. Now, emulate number pad is something you would want to do if you don't have the number keys on the right side of your keyboard, like if you're on a small laptop. Emulate 3-button mouse is something specific to me. I always use that on. It makes it so that if I hold Alt and left click, you rotate. If I hold Alt and Shift, I will pan the camera, as opposed to having to hold the middle mouse button for anything. Why? Because I don't want to crush my fingers on my middle mouse button. It just, like crushing on the scroll wheel, I don't know, over the years my fingers have just become sensitive to that and they hurt if I do that. So I never want to hit the middle scroll wheel if I don't have to. Navigation, I don't see anything there I have to worry about. Key map. Now, by default, you might have your spacebar action on play. So let's go back to the layout tab here. If you just hit spacebar normally, you just get this playhead moving. But if you have it set to tools, spacebar, you're going to get context menu. And again, I have my dynamic context menu on. This is something I really like having, so I have all these options when I hit spacebar to do a whole bunch of things. And that's good. It makes me happy. Now, here's another thing that I changed for myself, which I don't think most Blender users do, but I do. Now, by default, if I hit G, you're going to move. And this is kind of all over the place, right? But if I hit Y, it snaps it to the Y axis, X snaps it to the X, and all that good stuff, which can be kind of clunky. So you typically would want to, if you're going to move like that, think first, okay, what axis is it? If I want to move it here on the green, it's Y, so I'd have to go GY real fast. And if I want to move it on the X, I would want to go GX real fast and just do that. Now, if you're like me and you were a 3ds Max user for several years, you don't like doing that. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to, when it says tool keys, instead of immediate, hit active tool. So I'm going to hit G and it just activates the grab tool. And I can, instead of having to do that step earlier, I can just grab this thing and just move it over here, and that makes me happy. Hit R, I get this rotate gizmo. Hit S, I get scaling. And again, that makes me way happier. And now, with you have immediate on, if I hit tab and I hit 3 to go into the polygon selection, if I were to say hit I for inset, it just does this, and I'm not moving anything other than my mouse. I'm not holding either of the mouse buttons, and I click and there it is. I hit the E and it's just automatically moving like this. I'm not holding any buttons. I'm just moving my mouse back and forth, and then I click off. Now, turn those off. And now I go back to activate tool, or active tool, excuse me, and I hit G. Now I'm going to hit I, and it just creates this circle right here, which tells me that the inset faces tool is on. And I just click and drag it in like that. I hit E, it activates this extrude region tool, and I just click and drag this. So for me, like for a lot of Blender users, they don't work this way. For me, this is definitely my preferred way of working. I like to consistently have a tool activated and to just be in complete control of it at all times and know exactly how it's behaving. Again, just to me, I'm just so used to moving with the gizmo. It just makes me way happier to do it this way. You don't have to do it that way. It's not like the correct way to do it. It's just, but one thing I will say is that I do recommend being consistent. What do I mean by that? And this is just my recommendation. You don't have to, but let's say if you go to immediate, and again, if I want to just hit G, and then, you know, I hit Z to move this up on the Z axis only, but what if I'm like, you know what? I don't like that. I used to work this way. I used to do is I would go over to the move, and this is be a way to set any hotkey. If you right click on that tool and it says add to quick favorites, assign shortcut or online manual. If you assign shortcut, I can just go, it says press key and just hit the G. I can go into rotate, right click, assign shortcut. It says press key, and then I just hit R. And over here on scale, right click, assign shortcut, and then just hit the S key. So that now I've set a hotkey. So if I hit R, I hit G, I hit S. That's how you can assign hotkeys in Blender pretty quickly and easily, right? But here's the thing, since I did it that way, one, if I tab and go into object mode, then it's still doing immediate tool key that way. I would have to set the hotkeys in object mode and edit mode separately. So keep that in mind. Another thing is, if I tab back into edit mode, if I hit I to inset, it's still insetting that way. If I hit E for extrude, it's still extruding immediately that way. So it's kind of making your workflow a little inconsistent. Like it seems, it's almost like it's hard to explain. In my opinion, it's like you're fighting with the software. Just in my years of experience of using 3D software, you kind of want to use the software like it's intended, or you're going to be fighting against it. It's one thing when you're learning different programs. I've used 3ds, I've used Maya, using Blender. You kind of have to use every program like it wants to be used. For the most part, not exactly, not exclusively 100% of the time. There are a lot of ways in which you can change hotkeys. There are add-ons that can make programs behave a little more like another program if you really prefer it that way. But I would say for the most part, you want to at least try as much as you can to use the software like it's intended, with its strengths and weaknesses in mind. Every program has its own strengths and weaknesses. You want to keep that in mind and work with it. So I don't want to, you know, extrude that way with it, the extrude tool just moving automatically by itself. But then whenever I want to rotate something, then suddenly I've got to use a gizmo. Maybe you can work that way, but maybe it's not a big deal. But to me, it makes a lot more sense to just use active tool and work with a gizmo for everything, or to use immediate and avoid gizmos for the most part across your workflow. And now to remove hotkeys, let's go back into tab, right click, remove shortcut. Click on rotate, right click, remove shortcut, click on scale, right click, remove shortcut. And now I've removed those things, active tool, and now things are the way that I would prefer them to be. Cool. All right. Now with system, save and load, file paths, I'm not really going to worry about that. Have the autosave on. With this thing here, this hamburger menu, you can click to save your preferences at any time, and they will be saved. Okay, now there's one major thing I still want to go over, and it's up here in the themes. Now, let's go to 3D viewport. And the first thing I'm going to do is click on the grid color. This is something I do every time I download Blender. This is my personal preference. You don't have to follow it, just my thing. And I'm just going to lighten the color. With the value here selected, I'm just going to lighten it up till it's kind of sort of white, but not all the way. I like that. Now, I'm going to scroll down, and where it says theme space, scroll down, and it says gradient colors. And it says vignette. I'm going to say linear gradient. And now when I click on this here, This is the high gradient color for up here, and this is the low gradient color for down here. And now here's what I want to do. I'm going to open up Google, and I'm going to click on Google, and I'm going to do a search for Maya gradient. Go to images, and I'm just going to click on any of these. I'm just going to click on this random picture from a YouTube video, and I'm just going to right click, and I'm just going to copy that image. And now I'm going to open up Photoshop, and you can do this with whatever photo editor that you normally use. Now I'm in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Control N, start up a new document, hit Control V to paste that in. Now, if you haven't figured it out, basically this blue gradient from Autodesk Maya, I just really like the look of it, so I'm going to copy it over. Now, I'm going to, in Photoshop, hit the I key to bring up the eyedropper here, click on the lowest point, and it's going to give me that color. Hit X to switch my foreground and background color, and now I'm going to click on this highest point there. So now I have those two colors saved. I'm going to double click on that high color, copy and paste this, whoa, getting finicky, copy and paste the hex code, Control C, get off of that, bring back up my blender here, preferences, gradient high, hex, click on this, Control V, enter. Now let's go back, Photoshop. Again, well, I already have it. Go back to Blender, gradient low, click on there, click on the hex code, Control V, enter. And that was not the right one. Okay, let's do that again. X, double click there, Control C, and this time get the right color. Okay, gradient low, click on that, Control V, enter. And there we go. Now we've got the Maya gradient in there. And feel free to maybe, adjust it as you want. You don't have to use the exact same one. I can maybe go into the HSV, the hue, saturation, and value, and I can maybe bring that down, bring that up a little bit, bring it down there. You can saturate it, maybe desaturate a little. I like to saturate a little bit more. Now I'm going to go over to the high color. I'm going to saturate that a little bit more as well, make it a little bit more of a sky blue, bring the value up just a touch. None that says it has to be the exact same thing. And I'm happy with that. I think that looks cool. So there you go, and I hope this video is helpful for you at all. If it was, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and take care. I'll see you next one.